people about.
Very, very insightful, Peter. So then let's talk about a digital transformation strategy. How does a company then embark on that journey? So they realize that, our customers' thinking has shifted and they are demanding for us to transform with this big organization. Where do they start? How do they go about it?
Yeah, so Simon Sinek, his brilliant book, Start With Why. You have to have that why. You have to ask why 5 times or 7 times. And whatever strategy you put in place has to answer that question. And if you just do digital transformation because you want to use the buzzwords, that's not a good strategy. That's not going to be sustainable. Then you just play around with technology, and you can do that anyway. A strategy has to be specific to your business. It has to be specific to your culture, your customers, and the direction that you want to take. But it has to be informed by what's possible with those technologies. So there's, looking at the market, looking what other companies have done with it, but then saying for us and our industry and our market and our customers and our workforce and our direction, and what could be quite radical for that organization. And this is where, consultants and market research does play an important role to redefine what those organizations should look like. And you do see a lot of successful digital transformation strategies. For example, John Deere, who is a very traditional supplier of machinery in farming and agriculture, managed to develop a very successful digital transformation strategy. We've seen lots of examples around the world where those large organizations have taken a very radical approach to reinventing their business. And perhaps they should have been doing that anyway, but now it's a little bit more existential, and their strategy has become one of survival. Because if they don't have that ambitious strategy, their customers are going to switch, as we've said, to other companies that are using those technologies better to serve those customers' needs. So I think that's the first part of the answer. The second part of the answer is that the digital transformation strategy has to be very customer-centric. And if you were to walk into the reception of many large organizations over the years, as I've said, Fortune 500 companies, you'd see a very impressive vision and mission and set of principles and things that the organization, has adopted. But it's often very internally focused. It's often very it's an internal mindset. It's very great sounding language from a business school, but a customer will walk in there and say, "This doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't mean it's tell me, how your products are going to help me better solve my life problems better, or help me in my life stages, whatever stage I'm at in my life that I have changing needs, etc." So as I've said now with the fourth industrial revolution, the consumer has a much stronger voice. Information and the awareness of customer feedback on products and services has become increasingly democratized. And that's been the digital disruption of the media business, for example. Facebook is the biggest advertising company in the world, but they don't develop any of their own content. They're a platform and an ecosystem within which people advertise, share content, and compete for what we call the digital attention economy. And so within that digital attention economy, a lot more focus is going on the benefit that I as a consumer or I as an actor in an ecosystem am going to get. So Uber responded brilliantly because they said, well, we'll have a car with you in 5 minutes, pick you up, because they know exactly where you are to within 2 meters. Airbnb said you can book a room anywhere in the world, within 5 minutes. So you just go through the list of all these exponential companies. And I think what's important, Sarah, is that many of them didn't actually sit down and spend a lot of money developing a good sounding digital transformation strategy. They were also agile and applied continuous learning to say, there's a good enough strategy, let's execute and apply and learn and then revisit that strategy sort of continuously. It became a living, breathing definition of what they wanted to do, but very much based on what they were able to accomplish. And companies like Instagram nearly went out of business 5 or 6 times before they became such a successful photo sharing app. And one of the case studies I talk about in the book is Kodak, a traditional organization that had digital photographic technology. But because it was so disruptive to their film and chemicals business, they didn't have a digital transformation program. So if Kodak had a digital transformation program back in the 80s, when some engineers sitting in their laboratory figured out digital photography, which they did actually, and they'd gone, they'd said, hey guys, we've got this incredible technology. What do we do with it? The board members and the executives of Kodak would have said, well, this is going to cannibalize our traditional film and chemicals business, but we have a plan to shift our business away from that and into this new technology because we see that's the direction that the industry is going to go. But because they didn't have that just internally disruptive thinking, they wanted to entrench the status quo. So they doubled down on their chemicals and film business, and they actively worked against the technological disruption that they knew about internally, but over time with Instagram started to come at them from the outside. And in the same year that Kodak went bankrupt, Instagram was valued at $1 billion, I think, or $500 million, and then sold to Facebook for $1 billion. And really, what did Instagram do? They digitized and socialized the sharing and the creation of human memories. So if you talk about a strategy, they went right back to first principles. Elon Musk, for example, is great on first principles. He always goes back to first principles. The use cases that companies have developed over the years are often second or third abstractions of first principles. So the first principle of Instagram is, I want to conveniently share and create human memories. Now, Kodak's use case was to do that with film and chemicals. But when a new way of doing that, which came along, they weren't able to adapt their business. They weren't able to digitally transform to adopt that new technology. So that's, I mean, and we can look, at these examples with hindsight and learn from the tragedy of Kodak, for example, as many people have, and as I've researched it and written about it in a very practical way for people to learn from in my book and in my course. But ultimately, it's about saying, what is that change? What is that new direction that we have to go in as a strategy that helps us be a lot more internally disruptive, a lot more adoptive of these new technologies, and a lot more customer-centric in